your job takes you to Indiana, and you want to make sure that your kids aren't behind. Everybody will be doing the same things at the same grade levels, no matter what state they're in, with the exception of Texas and Alaska, who chose not to participate. Part of the reason for not participating is because of these Common Core standards and the assessments. Funding is tied to this, and that funding is federal funding. And those two states opted to say, we don't want any of your money, federal government, we have enough of our own money. Most states are not that fortunate, but as you know, Alaska and Texas have a very hot commodity in their oil, so that is where they're getting their funding for their schools, is from that business. So why? Again, as we said, we want to make sure that our kids are they're ready to go to college, or they're ready to start a career, ready to go to a trade school, and we want them to be prepared globally. We want them to have the same knowledge as their counterparts in other parts of the world.
Can I just address that for one
Sure.
second? Yeah. So can you just go back to that previous slide? Yeah, the key is that when our students graduate high school, that they are college and career ready. So they have options. We want to prepare them to go to a four-year school, so at the end of high school, if a student wants to go to college, that it's our responsibility to ensure that they are college ready. So it's college and career ready. So they have options once they graduate high school.
You entertain a question?
Sure.
The junior college are set up to be there for kids that are not registered for the they're apparently not going to go away. And so it doesn't sound like this is a kind of radical change.
Right. So there are,
Frankly, most 18-year-old kids are just flat out not ready for work.
and that's a great question. And I was one of those students. And my son was one of those students as well. Yeah. But for those students that have aspirations to go to a four-year college right out of high school, we want to ensure that we're putting those students in a position to be college ready once they graduate high school. But we are very fortunate in California that we have an outstanding community college system, and I was a product of that system, as is my son as well.
No, I'm a product.
Yeah,
I went to
yeah.
JC for 2 years as well.
Right.
Mainly because we moved a lot, and my parents wanted to make sure that when I came home from college that I had friends, because we moved right after I graduated from high school. But I ended up staying 2 years because I enjoyed it. I knocked a lot out of the way.
Right. So, and for a variety of reasons, students aren't ready to go to a four-year college right out of high school. I mean, could be social reasons, could be financial reasons, but this is not a knock against community colleges, but we are raising the bar for all our students. Okay. Yes?
Actually, I've read in several places that the Common Core standards are actually only geared towards community college, not four-year colleges.
Yeah.
By their own admission, they're not, I didn't say.
Yeah, I'd like to know where you read it, because that's not something that I've
I also understand that algebra will no longer be taught in 8th grade.
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
We'll address that issue.
That's not entirely true, but we'll get to that.
But as far as the Common Core only getting to a community college level, it's not true, because the Common Core does not address content. It doesn't tell people what to teach. So teachers are still teaching the state standards in terms of content. We still have the UC A through G curriculum. Those courses are exactly the same. They're not changing. They're not going away. So those it's a pedagogical shift. It's what are we asking students to do? Are we okay with students just bubbling in the right answer? Is that enough? Well, I think we found that maybe not. Asking students to explain their answers, to understand why they, went a certain way, a certain logical path. We thought that, all of these people in all these other states felt that was important. And I would agree. I was an English teacher. And I could get students to answer factual questions, but getting them to go beyond that was a real challenge. And they weren't always asked to do that. Yes.
Right, but so 2 plus 2 equals 4, but it can equal 5.
No.
No, I don't think that's...
As long as you can explain how you got there, then Common Core lets you go ahead and say, it equals 5, you're good.
No, I don't think that's what it says. It is particularly in math. Math, there really isn't a lot of leeway. Now, you might be able to explain your answer, but if the answer's still wrong, it's still wrong.
Right, but you just said it's okay for Common Core to explain itself. If you can explain how you got to 5, then 5's the right answer.
I didn't say that. What I said was, we want students to not only get the right answer, but to understand why it's the right answer, and to be able to defend their answer. That's what we want. Getting the right answer is important. I taught English. You know what? There's a lot of latitude in English. Interpretation of literature. People have their opinions, their life experiences. Well, they're not all going to agree. You've got a classroom of 30 students. You've got 30 different opinions. Now, what I think we want students to do is to be able to articulate their position, their point of view, and justify it. It doesn't make them right, necessarily, and I'm talking from an English language arts point of view here. I'm not talking about math, all right? Different discipline, definitely more black and white. But English is less so. It's not so much the one right answer. It's your interpretation of the literature and why do you believe it's so. And I think that's one of the points.
I have a question. Earlier, when you talked about who developed these state standards, I noticed you left out the Department of Education. How much, the Federal Department of Education, how much influence did they have in setting the state standards and then, of course, the national program?
You have any insight? I mean, I know they don't get mentioned as a writer in the process, so therefore they're not dictating what we're doing. This was the Council of the Governors from
It
states.
does come from the federal government, does it not?
No.
Do you know,
They've endorsed them, but they didn't write them.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay. Now, the standards, what they do is to define what the students are expected to know and be able to do, but they don't define how the teachers are going to teach it. What they do is focus on what is most essential, and what they don't do is describe all that can or should be done. So we do have some of that latitude with what is being done. It establishes a baseline for our advanced learners, and it does not define the nature of that advanced work. There was a question about algebra, which in 8th grade was the California curriculum for math, and as I said, we will get to that when we talk about the shifts in math. But the advancement of students through math courses the accelerated portion is to be happening at the high school level, not at the middle school level. That's the foundation of the Common Core. Not that it can't happen, but that's not the foundation of it.
Is there a split at the middle school? There's basic math and.
That's part of the change process that is
That's the
happening.
reality, isn't it, right now, that there's 2 sets of middle school classes? That was my understanding.
yes.
We have 6th grade, we currently the Common Core state standards are driving what the teachers are doing in classrooms. This is a transition year. The state standards were 6th grade, there was a 7th grade class, and then originally 8th grade algebra was the course for 8th grade students in math. That has since changed. It is now a 6th grade course, 7th grade course, and an 8th grade course, and it's the foundational skills for the higher math. Students who skip over courses tend to have gaps in their knowledge and their application of the concepts once they get to the higher level of math. So that's part of the reason for shifting. The 8th grade course, I can tell you, we'll not wait until we get to the end, but it does incorporate almost the full first half of algebra foundations and concepts. And then the rest happens at the high school level. And as we go through the transition, what we will be doing is developing an integrated pathway so that we can take and compress, say, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, possibly for accelerated students, into a 2-year program. That's something that we're looking at. Am I going to tell you we're doing it? Absolutely. I can't do that. We're researching that. We're working with the county office on trying to identify schools that are currently doing that or farther in the process, because we haven't found any yet than we are. That's one of the avenues. And then there is the acceleration at the high school, where we're also looking at an integrated program that will allow students to, because I think there's concern that if they don't take algebra until they're a freshman, how do they take calculus as a senior? It's challenging unless you go into the AP course as a junior and then you can, which is a pre-calc, algebra 2